Tony, how are you?
Good. How are
Good to
you
see.
feeling? You were not
I'm
so well last week.
I'm doing great. I'm doing much better. Last week I had a little bit of a scare. I had a very bad case of a sore throat, like this lumpy throat, and then I started having some fever. 102, 102.5, and
Yeah.
I got really worried. Got really worried for a little bit.
Yeah,
Then
you
I
should have
went,
been.
yeah. Then I went over to the lab and had my blood work done, and then they did the swab thing. It's like a giant sort of huge like Q-tip that they insert all the way up your nose, and it
I
goes
know,
all
it's
the
not
way
fun.
back to the back of the head. And fortunately, it was negative. I ended up just having a throat infection of some kind, and then with the antibiotics, I got the job done. And I'm
Yeah.
good, back with my wine blogging project. Here in
Good.
Puerto Rico, things are well in general terms with the COVID situation. We haven't had as many cases as other places. We just surpassed the 100th mark in terms of disease, which is, it's obviously a very bad number. Any death is bad, but
Yeah.
compared to other places, 102 disease is not a gigantic number. How are things over there?
So far, everybody's still on lockdown. I just saw that the county next to Napa, called Solano County,
Hmm.
is slowly starting to let people go back to, not to places like bars or restaurants yet, but retail stores are supposed to be able to open as long as they can do proper distancing. And it's just it's just really kind of it's the most disastrous thing I think that's happened to our economy in my entire life. And I'm hopeful that as we're all allowed to go back with some reasonable cautions in place, that I don't expect things to go back immediately to normal, but it would be
Yeah,
nice if we could start to go that direction. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to getting a chance to go see my old friends at restaurants and sharing wine together with friends.
That's for sure.
But
Well,
in
I
California, it's really tough. California is
yeah.
practically in lockdown still.
And the region, the area where you are, depends heavily on tourism and restaurants and
Of course, yeah,
visitors.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't think people are going to travel a lot.
yeah,
When it first unwinds, I mean, they'll go to places. I mean, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people from San Francisco and Oakland and the South Bay that will visit the Napa and Sonoma areas. But I just don't think people in New York are going to get on a plane to fly across the country with a bunch of other people they don't know, just to go see wines in the in the wine country in California. So it's going to be a while before it all comes back, I think. I'm hopeful that I'm being pessimistic, but we'll see. I hope.
yeah.
But who
At the
knows?
end of the day, I guess people know how to take care of themselves much better than any government, any mayor, any politician. So hopefully, we will learn from this, and in the coming weeks and months, until we have a vaccine, we'll just change our way of life a little bit. So I had you in the program about 3 weeks ago. We had those beautiful Maritana wines, the Pinot and the Chardonnay, fantastic, brought to
Thank
Puerto
you.
Rico by Almacén del Vino from Beth Fernandez. I send them my regards, my appreciation. So today I have three wines. I have two of the Secret Door wines. I mean the with the label and the door. I have
Me
the
too.
this is the Hirondelle. How do you pronounce this?
Hirondelle, and it's French for the little swallow birds, that fly around. So it's
So we got this
cute.
one, the Hirondelle Vineyard
Yes,
from 2017. The second wine we're gonna do is the one with the red door, and this is Sage, right? Sage Vineyard.
Sage Ridge,
Sage
Sage
Ridge
Ridge Vineyard.
Vineyard. And
Mm-hmm.
then we have a very cool looking label. This is an homage, a tribute to your significant other. I like this
Good.
label. This is the
Yeah.
JML
Yep.
2018 Napa Valley Cabernet. So
I
really
don't think
excited to
many
try
people.
this.
Maybe people have seen the other label out and about, but this is just trickling out right now, and it's pretty exciting. We'll get to this at the end, but it's really a lovely wine. I'm very happy to be able. This is the first time I've shown it to anybody, uh,
Thank you.
in
Thank you for
anything
that.
besides just across the table and here, try this. So I'm really happy to be able to do it with you.
Thank you, Donald. It's a treat. It's an honor. So everyone associates you with your past life, with that gigantic winery that you made it what it is today.
Gigantic.
Well, in terms of brand, in terms of scores, in terms of how well it did, how it really, really, I guess, excited Pinot Noir lovers. Cabernet. like Donald Patz and Cabernet. I was reading an article in Forbes magazine, quite cool, about your career and about this new venture for you. How did it all come about?
The Cabernet came about. I mean, look, I've got a long career in the wine industry. Before Patz and Hall started, I worked for a couple of other wineries. I worked for Flora Springs Winery in the Napa Valley, and then just as Patz and Hall was getting started, I worked at Girard Winery, both of which were significant producers of Cabernet, and very familiar with how those wines were made, and also was part of the tasting team and did all the other stuff that we did. So Cabernet wasn't exactly a big stretch. Plus, I have a bunch of friends who make Cabernet. I mean,
Yeah.
if you live in the Napa Valley, inevitably a lot of your friends become winemakers, or are winemakers, and then you become friends,
Yeah.
one way or the other. And so Cabernet is everywhere here, and it was not hard to find people who wanted to tell me how to do it. The trick was to find the grapes, and especially this first wine, the Hirondelle. That was a real challenge. But where did this come from? Well, when I was dating this woman,
It's a
who
cool
eventually
story.
became my wife, I think so too. Yeah,
She has a say in that. It's a cool story.
she
Tell us
did.
about it.
I was dating this woman who lived in Washington D.C., and I was trying to convince. Her name is Jungmin Lee. That's what the JML comes from,
Yeah.
and a Korean woman, beautiful and really lovely, and it's been fun to be with her. But I was trying to convince her to move to California, and she had all kinds of reasons why she didn't think that was necessary, including I don't really like Pinot Noir that much anyway. I'd rather drink Bordeaux or Cabernet Sauvignon from the Napa Valley. So, being in sales, you come up with roadblocks a lot. You have to figure
Yeah.
out how to get around them. So my immediate response was, fine, move to California and I'll make Cabernet Sauvignon for you. Thinking, I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but when I get a chance to, I promise I will. And so being able to leave Patz and Hall in 2017 to go on to do my new things, including the Maratona that we were talking about earlier, this was really one of the first things I wanted to do, was to be able to make Cabernet Sauvignon from the Napa Valley. And the primary place that I was looking right away was Stag's Leap. I love the
Okay.
area of Stag's Leap. I think it's really different from a lot of the other parts of the Napa Valley. The wines tend to be sleeker, more elegant, and frankly, sort of more feminine. And since this is a wine that I'm doing for a woman, it made a lot of sense that I would make it in a style that would go that direction. And so Stag's Leap was where I was looking. I got a lot of responses from my friends like, that'll never happen. If there's any Cabernet grapes available in Stag's Leap, Doug Schaefer's already all over that. He's never going to let you buy grapes. And I thought, well, all right, well, maybe not, but at least I'll look around. So I happened to be having lunch with a friend of mine, this woman that had worked for Patz and Hall, and she said, "What are you doing when you're leaving Patz and Hall?" And I said, "Well, one of the things I'd like to do is make Cabernet, and I'm looking in Stag's Leap, but
So
I'm not
you
finding
made
it."
your promise, you made the commitment to your wife before even having one Cabernet grape
Oh,
secured.
years before. She moved to
Oh my!
California. We're
So
married
you're
now for
so you're
5 years. So
so you
yeah,
you really did throw the dice there, my friend.
I did. Well, I figured it was worth a shot, right? If she
Yeah,
said
well,
no, then I was out nothing. If she said yes, then, well, I'll get to it as soon as I can, baby.
yeah.
the But anyway, I came up with these grapes because this connection with friends, and they said, "Yeah, we have a little bit of grapes available in Stag's Leap." Well, what I didn't know was where exactly it was until I drove out into the vineyard. It's right next to Stag's Leap wine cellars, right at the base of the actual rock outcropping. In fact, if you go to our website, you'll see pictures of me basically standing. I can't help it. Every time I go there, I take a selfie with the Stag's Leap rock outcropping behind me because it's so amazing.
I've seen a
So
few. I've seen a few.
yeah, it's a very special place, and it's 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. All of these wines are 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. I think that Napa is different from Bordeaux in so many different ways, and one of the ways that it's different is that we really don't have to. It's rare. It would be an extraordinarily rare year for Cabernet Sauvignon not to be able to become fully ripened, and so I don't really feel like we have to, do uh, the blending, at least from the point of view of trying to make sure you get ripe grapes every year. And I have a feeling they're probably thinking the same thing in Portugal.
Were you a cab drinker in your spare time when you were having all of the success with the Pinots and Patz and Hall?
Oh, I try
Did you? Okay.
everything. I
Okay.
like drinking all kinds of different wines. I'm not really sure that I trust you if you're a winemaker and the only thing you drink is the same kinds of wines that you make.
That's right.
Uh,
Hey,
I,
Andres,
you know,
Andres Lewis right there, my dear
hey,
friend, brilliant
Andres,
sommelier and the director of Beth Fernandez portfolio. He's the guy who's making all of this happen.
it's fun to work with Andres. He's a good guy, and so
He's a
looking
great
forward
guy.
to getting a chance to get back down your way and hanging out with all of you again. But anyway, the Cabernet. So I've got it in my glass. I'm assuming
Yeah,
you
let's go
have
to
one.
let's go to the first one, the one with the blue door, 2017. I'm going to give a special announcement here. The 2014 Secret Door, which is a sort of unique wine because it has a particular story. It's going to be on a special price of 150. It's coming down from 170 to 150 for those who are interested in purchasing the 2014 Secret Door. You got to call Almacén del Vino. We're going to put down the number afterwards in our YouTube interview. So sorry for interrupting you, my friend. We got the
Not at all.
2017
Yes.
Hirondelle Secret Door Cab Sauvignon. What can you tell us about this one?
I was one of the first people to pick these grapes in 2017. In fact, the vineyard manager looked at me kind of funny when I said I'd like to pick these on whatever the day it was. I think it was a Tuesday, but he said, don't even have all of our Merlot in yet. Are you sure you want to pick? And I said, yeah, I'm really sure. I'm walking up down the rows, looking at the grapes, and it really looks beautiful. I want to bring them in, and so we picked the grapes. Yes, less ripe than some of my friends would, but fully ripe, fully flavored, and we didn't have to fiddle with it very much. We didn't have to do any additions in terms of trying to add acid or things like that. And the fermentation took place. It's a pretty standard program in stainless steel, lots of pump overs. Then it went into 100% new French oak barrels. That is the way that the great Bordeaux's all make their wines, and all the best of the
I'm,
best
I'm, I'm
California
loving
70s.
I'm loving the nose here because
Yeah,
it's very elegant. It's not pornographic. It's not bombastic. It's not lots of oak, lots of chocolate. It's pure fruit. You got that sort of little bit of pepper, a little bit of that cherry. You got obviously that freshness, but it's a nose that does not want to impress with what it isn't, but rather with the purity of the fruit. Let me see what I have in the palate. Yep. Well, the palate feels very creamy, um, very velvety. Still a baby. This wine will age very well. It's pleasant right now, and it feels fresh. It feels very alive. Um, I think that the tannins obviously are there. You feel them. Don, what are you drinking? I think they're asking you. We're drinking. This is Derek. We're drinking Secret Door 2017 Hirondelle Vineyard.
yeah.
Oof.
Unfortunately, our cameras flip it so you get the mirror image of it. Probably because we look funny to ourselves if we're not flipped around because we're used to seeing ourselves in a mirror. But anyway, yeah, this is the interesting thing is that well, not the only interesting thing, but something that you might note is that every vintage that we release and every wine will have its own unique door signature. So there's a
Yeah.
2018 door for this. There's a 2018 door for the next one, and we'll continue on to use a different door with each vintage. And I think it's just part of the fun of doing it. It really is there's no it doesn't make any difference to the wine. It's just a matter of it's kind of fun to see that. I love the Stegsley district for exactly what we were talking about earlier, and I think it really comes through in this wine. There's a velvetyness, a sleekness of the tannins. The wine is rich but not sweet and cloying. It's refreshing, and I particularly like to drink it on the cooler side. This is true for all red wines for me,
Yeah.
and particularly in a place like Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You try to
You
drink it at
cannot
room
you cannot
temperature,
drink at room temperature. No, my
you
God,
could
you'll
burst
have
into flames.
you would have those the sweat coming down your
Yeah.
forehead. I love
And
it.
you miss
It's
some of the
opening up.
character of the wine too. I think that way.
Yeah, the fruit is the currants are there. I mean, it has a very very long finish, um, and the freshness. The fruit feels very fresh, very healthy. You know that you're dealing with prime grapes. Um, this is a bit of a sin to drink this beauty so early. I mean, this is a type of wine that if you buy it, I mean it. You're gonna share it with friends. I would decant this for an hour or two before serving
It
it.
wouldn't. It certainly
What's your
wouldn't
take
hurt.
on decanting? What's your
Yeah,
take on decanting?
I like to decant for a number of reasons. When the wines are young, I think that they will open up a little bit, but I wouldn't do it hours and hours in advance. I would do it half an hour in advance or something like
Half
that.
an
And
hour in
also,
advance.
well, I don't want it to warm up too much. And typically, people don't put they don't keep the. If you want to go back into your wine cellar with it, that's fine. But I think
Let
that
me let me ask you this, because obviously those who are and making wine is an art. At the end of the day, it's obviously an agricultural product and what have you. But you have inspiration and you have mentors, or perhaps you have a vision. I'm not saying that you're going to replicate a style, but who has informed your approach to Cabernet? Like, do you try and interpret Cabernet the way that certain Cabernets have impacted you as a consumer?
Well, I think it's impossible not to be influenced by that. It's if you're a musician and you listen to a lot of other music, of course, that's going to inform the way that you play, and also, your choices in terms of how you interpret your music and stuff. And I think it's the same with winemaking. Is you drink wines, you become interested in how they created that distinctive character, and you may or may not want to replicate it, but it can have an impact. And one of the things that I was really thinking about with Cabernet is how you pick the grapes super ripe, much riper than they used to pick it. Well, that's not entirely true, but frequently the grapes were picked at a lower sugar levels, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. There were some exceptions to that, but mostly that was the case. You end up with flavors that don't really taste like Cabernet anymore. They lose that one thing that Cabernet has, which is this sort of herbal edge to it. It shouldn't taste like vegetables, but at the same time, it shouldn't just taste like blackberry jam either.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to get that. And I think even more so in the Sage Ridge, the next wine up, there's a distinctive herb element that says, I'm Cabernet, and I'm really proud to be Cabernet. So who has informed this? I drank an awful lot of the California wines from the late 70s into the early 80s, and of course I've continued to buy them. But those are the wines that I really loved the most, and partly probably because I was just getting started and didn't really know a lot, and so it was really exciting to try everything I had. But I loved some of the older wines from Heights, of course. But I have friends that have been winemakers for a long time, and so I really liked. One of my favorites was a Keenan Winery back when my friend
Yeah.
Joe Cafaro was the winemaker. Joe was the winemaker there at the very beginning, from I think '77 and '78. He was the winemaker there, and I remember drinking those wines and thinking, "Man, I really like these." And St. Clement back in the day, those kinds of wines were really lovely, and I really enjoyed drinking them in their youth, and I know that they also aged gracefully. So that was kind of what I was trying to shoot for, not really to recreate those wines, but to use them kind of as a measuring stick in my head to create something that I was thrilled with today and wanted to drink today, but maybe had sort of an echo of the past.
I really, really like it. I love how it's evolving. It's opening up. I'm getting some mint, some eucalyptus, some freshness, some menthol. Just, clear, vibrant fruit. It's not a Weight Watchers chocolate shake, but neither is it a diluted. It's a diluted, I guess, tree liquid. I mean, water from a base, or it really is right in the middle. There's obviously that exuberance. There's that layered fruit, but it doesn't feel hefty. I mean, it's vibrant. I really, really like it. Let's go to the number
Sage
two
Ridge.
wine,
Yeah.
Sage Ridge. This is a different door. This is a red door. I really like. These are doors from France, right?
This door is actually from India. It was
From
the
India.
entrance into the harem, and I got it written down someplace, but apparently it was the secret entrance into a harem back a couple hundred years ago. The blue door is in fact from France. Yes.
Okay, so Secret Door 2017 Sage Ridge Vineyard. Let's give
Yes.
it a little whirl here.
This is
As you
from a
said,
totally different,
herbs.
totally different part of the Napa Valley. So we were on valley floor for the Hirondelle. It's valley floor right in the middle, maybe in the beating heart of Stag's Leap. This is Eastern Hills to the east of St. Helena, up above Lake Hennessy, and it's a spectacular vineyard just running along the ridgetop. I really didn't need more Cabernet at this point. I already had the Hirondelle in my backpack, and I'm really good. I promised I'd make her Cabernet. I didn't say I was going to make her 10 different Cabernets, so we're okay. But I went to see this vineyard, and I just immediately fell in love with it, and I had to sign up. I've decided now that going to see vineyards for me is the equivalent of going to see golden retriever puppies for most people. I dare you to go see golden retriever puppies
and
not bring
not
one
come back
home.
with one, right? Not come back with
I
one.
go see a vineyard, I have to buy some grapes. I'm not allowed to do that anymore, but it sure seems true.
I'm loving again the freshness here. As you said, there's some herbs. There's a little bit of tomato. There's a little bit of lavender. There's a little bit of flowers mixed here. Obviously, you got that Cabernet exuberance again. That very sort of in your face pepper. A little bit of that currant. But
Well,
then again, it feels fresh, so fresh.
yeah, it does. And when I was making these two wines, within the first few months of tasting them out of barrel, um, I'm not a 25-year-old anymore. I'm not maybe super old yet, but I'm old enough to realize that these wines are going to outlive me. If they're properly cellared, people will be drinking these wines after I'm gone, and I think that's really kind of interesting and to my mind, cool that something like this can continue on after you. What I really love about Sage Ridge, in terms of the wine, the place is spectacular, and it's really hard not to love it. But what I like about the wine is that it has a really much more distinctive um, set of aromas that remind me of that mountainside smell. And if
Mm-hmm.
you've ever been up in the hills in California in the summertime when it's been a hot day, there's a lot of aromatic shrubs that all give off these really pretty sort of herbal, but you said fresh a lot, and I think that's really part of it. It smells clean and sort of
Yeah,
healthy and
yeah.
fresh. The air does, and it somehow got translated onto this wine too. And I'm not really sure. I've heard people say, "Oh yeah, it's the pollen going." It's not. That's not the way this works.
But when
Uh,
when I know that you're a Pinot king, you're Dr. Pinot, and I know you're a Chardonnay master. But when I saw these bottles at Almacén del Vino
yeah,
from B. Fernandez here, obviously the price tag. Nowadays, you have these Napa Valley wines that are so rich and opulent and hedonistic and pornographic, if you will, that you need a fork to be able just to eat them. Like they're wines that are meant to be eaten rather than drunk.
it
Uh,
feels that way to me too. Yeah,
for a
and
lot of
that's
wines,
not the
well,
way. Those are not the
there
wines I grew up on.
yeah,
Those are not the wines that I
there's a
remember.
tendency to perhaps dial that back, but I was not skeptical. I know you're a brilliant
Oh, you
winemaker,
should be skeptical. At
but after
170, it should rock your world. It really should.
yeah, well, but you get some wines that are double the price and not necessarily as good. I love how this wine is integrated. To me, here the key word is balance, because you have that rich fruit, but you got the freshness, you got the agility. It feels very round, very creamy on the palate. I know it's going to be so much better in 3 to 5 years.
Uh-oh. Did I lose it?
I'm
Oh,
really loving how the two of them. Yeah, no, somebody was calling me. Don't worry about it. No, the connection is
oh,
great.
okay.
So I love the fact how both wines have sort of a common thread in as much as they are both very elegant. They're rich, but they're fresh and they're balanced. But at the same time, they're different. I have them here side by side, and maybe in one is more spicy. The second one is a little bit more spicy, more herbal.
Yeah.
This is the stacks, and then the Hirondelle is, I guess, a little bit more fruit, more approachable. I guess more similar than to other cabs, but this one is very distinct. The what makes this Sage Ridge Vineyard so special?
I think that it's a combination of all of the little bits and pieces that come together in a vineyard. So you start with the idea of, location, and it is to the east of St. Helena. That area is moderately warm, so it's not as cold as it would be, for example, in Stag's Leap. It's much warmer up there, but afternoon sun, where this vineyard is, afternoon sun is slanting away, so it's slightly tilted away from the west, slightly tilted to the east instead. And so it gets morning sun, but not so much blazing afternoon sun. But I think the soil is really distinctive. So it's right across Sage Canyon Road from Pritchard Hill. In fact, parts of the vineyard you can look down and over and see Pritchard Hill in the distance. But it's totally different soil. It's the soils up there are derived from rocks that are 10 times older, 100 million year old underground. The subsoil, substrate that was eventually broken down into soil is 100 million years old. So the soils are really quite different, and I think all of that comes together. Also, the area, because it's drier, it has these, as I mentioned, these sort of aromatic shrubs, and in particular, the one I really like is California bay laurel, which you can actually take the little leaves and use them for bay leaves in cooking. Typically dry them first, they're a little less intense, but yes, and it has that sort of bay-like smell out there.
I'm
I
going
love
back
it.
to both. I'm going back to both wines, and you do have that little bit of bitter chocolate, dark chocolate component to it at the end that is so pleasant, but it's not sweet. It's like that chocolate that has no sugar added. It's
Yeah.
just natural. Beautiful, beautiful both wines.
Well, you just touched on it, and look, some of these guys that are making these wines that you just talked about, the sort of over-the-top pornographic Cabernets.
Weight Watchers shakes, milkshakes.
They are making money hand over fist, and there is a big group of people out there who love them, and God love that piece. I mean, the wine business is also a business, and so if you can't please your customers, you're really in trouble for the long run. But those aren't the wines I want to drink personally. I'm sorry, my hair. I haven't had a chance to get a haircut in like 6 weeks.
Yeah,
So sorry about
it's
that.
getting there.
I'm
I was
gonna do
gonna
man buns soon.
I was gonna say that it's reaching the level of the other Donald.
Oh my God! Please don't
No,
say that.
no, I take it back. I take it back.
But that's exact. I'm not trying to do anything against anyone, but I'm just trying to please myself, and I just don't like those wines. They come off as sweet, literally sweet, and you can actually do some tests on them, and it turns out they are in fact sweet. There's residual sugar in a lot of these super high-end Cabernets.
And they compete
So
with the food. I mean, you go to a steakhouse, they bring you one of those bottles, they bring you a tomahawk steak, and then you don't know which is heavier, the steak or the wine.
there should be a cleansing element to all wines, and
Yeah,
especially red wines, because it's carrying tannin. So that's what I'm looking for. And
yeah.
hopefully as we go forward, and I love these 2017s. So the 2018s are still in barrel, will be bottled just after the new year, 2021, and 2019s. They're all really lovely, and I think that they're really along the same line. And I'm really thrilled with what we've been able to do.
Let me just, before we go to the last wine, just recap for our viewers here.
Show
We
the
have
two.
Secret Door 2017, the Herondale Vineyard, and
I can
then
do it
we
too.
have the 2017 Sage Ridge Vineyard. They're both carried by Almacén del Vino from B. Fernandez here in Puerto Rico. These are
There you go.
delicious Cabernets. They're very agile, versatile, gastronomic. They have the very cool sort of wax seal. I love. These are very, very high-end Cabernets, but these are not the Cabernets that if you like those high octane that have lots of oak and this sort of residual sweetness to the palate, and you're expecting a cocoa shake, these are not for you. These are reminiscent of those beautiful wines. I love Rich in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
I love
Ridge was one of
I
the first ones I started buying when I was just getting started.
I love Mount Eden. I love obviously Kathy Corison. I love the wine from Randy Dunn. Those wines that have soul. Cabernet not necessarily has to have so much disjointed strength. It can be all about nuance, and it can be dialed back too. Napa Valley doesn't have a problem with ripeness, so it's
That's right.
easy to make excessive wines. I guess nowadays it's harder to wine wines that are more prudent, more sort of savory. That's the word I was looking for. These cabs are savory. I love
They
the
are.
savory element.
Yes.
All right, now
That's,
we have
that's one of
this.
the things I really like about Cabernet too. So we're going to taste the JML,
I
which
love this label. I
isn't
mean,
that crazy?
this is, yeah, your wife right there, her initials, 2018, and this is 14 alcohol. Let's see what we have here. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
it's
this one.
14. It's probably really, 14.1 or something like that. It's not really carrying a heavy load of alcohol. It's not like 15.5 or something like that. But I do want to tell you a little story about couple of stories about the label. One is that instead of JML on there, I really wanted to put LKG because my nickname for my wife is Little Korean Girl, or sometimes LKG for Little Korean
LKG.
Girl. And so that's where, and people, she knows it. She thinks it's cute, and it's really a term of endearment. But
Of course,
my
of course.
attorney grabs me by the arm. He says, "Oh no, you are not putting that on. You do have no idea what kind of storm you're about to walk into.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
sort of sexist and all." And I just said,
No,
"Fine,
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
use her
yeah, yeah,
initials
yeah.
instead. I'll use her initials instead." But it really is a dedication to the LKG, the Little Korean Girl. That
And
picture
what's the
is done
blend in
by a
here?
100% Cabernet, but
Okay.
it's two vineyards. There's a little tiny taste of the third vineyard, but in 2018, I purchased some Cabernet from another vineyard site that we decided, for a number of reasons, not quality reasons, but more for production size and things like that, that it just wasn't going to work for us long term. So I took that is a beautiful vineyard up on Atlas Peak, and used that as the base of this. And then I added some Hirondelle, and like I said, just sort of a tiny bit of Sage Ridge. But it's all three of those put together into this wine, but selected barrels. So I went through and selected the barrels that seemed a little lighter and more delicate and not quite so structured, because I wanted more of the structure in the wine that was going to be more expensive and presumably aged longer. And this wine I really intended for
This is a
not
very
immediate, not this.
feminine wine. This is, I love the
It's this
nose here.
is this drinkable. I actually had to go get 3 more cases of this from the warehouse 2 days ago because every few days I grab a bottle and go, well, yeah, but it's got your picture on it, baby. We should drink another
No,
one.
it's beautiful. It's like this scent of perfume, and here you're getting into, you know, some complexity. So it's approachable. Obviously, the nose is very sort of delicate, feminine. You got that bright fruit, but you got some, um, I don't know if it's olives, but you got something that's not fruit. It's soil. It's obviously not veggie, but some kind of dirt, some kind of forest floor. I like it. I really like it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
perfume. It's
really
very
easy to
perfume.
drink too. So the price on this is going to be less. I can't exactly quote a price for you for Puerto Rico, but in California, it's going to be the California price on this is going to be about 65. And I have a feeling that I'm happy to work with Andres on this, and it should be pretty close to that same price in Puerto Rico when it gets there. I made about 600 cases of this, which is not a very big production. So hopefully we can get some down your way and make people happy there too.
Yeah, on the palate, it does. The word is not light. The word is that is agile, is dynamic. It's refreshing. Like I would never think that I could say that a Cabernet is refreshing, but there's this salinity at the end that sort of cleanses the palate. And maybe if you're having something with fat or something with some kind of, I don't know, I guess structure like a piece of meat, it will just clean it away.
I think so too. I find it really lovely with lots of different kinds of foods, and all of the things that you said were exactly what I was hoping to do. But this wine is no less in terms of winemaking than the other two wines. I mean, it got essentially the same program. It came out of barrels earlier, so that it retained what we like to describe. We for a long time we would describe this element at Patz Hall as baby fat. That sort of not fat actually, but there's a freshness and a youthfulness that can come
Yeah.
through in wines. And at some point in barrel, that begins to fade, and the wines can be stretched and sort of dried out. I really wanted this wine to seem fresher and brighter and even a little crunchy on the palate, and I think we got that crunchy, by that I mean it's a textural thing, but it also does a lot of fun things with food, as you mentioned. It really. Michael Broadbent talked about Bordeaux supposed to be beats as it sweeps as it cleans, and that's, you have to be old to know what that really means. It was an advertisement for Bissell vacuum cleaners. Eat beats as it sweeps as it cleans. That's what he said Bordeaux should be, and I think that this has a little bit of that cleansing and sort of crunchy character helps to
Well,
prepare the palate for the next
to
bite.
me, it's reminiscent of a Cabernet made by a Pinot master. I mean,
Well, maybe it was.
but yeah, well, you are. I mean, you can definitely tell that you're going here for the delicate texture, the sort of enthralling and sexy nose, how it feels on the palate, so agile. And I mean, it changes on the glass. Does she like it? Does your wife like it?
She likes it.
It's very
She
good.
thinks the picture is funny, and she said if we were selling this in Korea, people would not buy it because they would think it looks strange. But everybody in the United States I show it to really likes it. And the funny thing is, the artist is actually the daughter of a master som. So I think I'm going to be okay with with this one. You've seen
To
him.
me, to wrap up, this is the wine to have today, tomorrow, within the next year or two. The second wine we had, which is also I'm sorry, this is not the second one. This is
I'll show you that
Sage
label one
Ridge.
more time here. Yeah.
Yes, yes, Sage Ridge. The second wine we had. I mean, this wine is fantastic now, but in 5 to 10 years will be spectacular. The first wine we had, I think, will probably last 15, 20, 25 years easily. I mean, it's delicious now, but it feels that it needs a little bit of cellar time. Um, Fantastic wines, Donald. Delicious, delicious wines. Thank you very, very much.
It's a pleasure to be here. And when we get a chance to do new vintages, I'd love to come back and do Maritana and Secret Door with you again. This is so much fun.
We
And you
will do.
make it
We will
really
do it.
easy.
Thank you so much, and tell your wife that this is beautiful, man. I'm loving it. This is a cab made by a Pinot Jedi master. Thank you so much, Donald. Let
All
me
right.
just remind our audiences and people who are going to be watching this within the next 24 hours. You can get the Secret Door at Almacén del Vino by Beth Fernandez. The 2014 vintage is going to retail for around $149, $150, which is a really good price for a very prime Napa Valley Cabernet. This is the 2017. You got the Sage Ridge and the Hirondelle. They're both available at Almacén del Vino. And hopefully we will see this in Puerto Rico soon. This is a
I hope
very
so.
cool. Yeah, who drew this? You were saying something about the
There's,
art.
the woman is, her name is Ellery Fletcher, and she's the daughter of Jay Fletcher, a master som out of Aspen, Colorado, who's been in all the som movies. So if you've seen those, you've seen
Wow,
Jay.
I have,
His
I have,
daughter
I
is
have.
just a delight. She's such a sweet woman, very obviously young woman at this point. But I met her, I think the first time when she was probably 12 or something like that, and she was always, she and her sister both were just marvelous. And so it was fun to see the work that she was doing, and to be able to include it on this label has just been a treat.
Thank you so much, my friend. It's
Good
always
to
a
see you.
treat. You're all the
Yeah,
nicest of guys. I'm gonna toast with you right here. These are
I can do
fantastic
that.
wines,
Yes,
and I'm gonna send you the link via YouTube later. God bless. Take care and enjoy your weekend, my
thanks.
friend. Bye bye.
You bet.
Take care.
Bye-bye.